Welcome to Warblog. Today I'm going to have a look at one of these three. I haven't decided which yet. I think I'm going to do this one, the Recapture of Flito. These are all from the Ogaden War, and I don't know, I just got a bit of momentum there and plonked a few together. So there's Flito. The Western Somali Liberation Front and the Somali forces basically took it in 77 August. And here is March, and the Ethiopians take it back. Well, it's interesting actually, because it's been a long time since I've even thought of this. So that worked. That worked. That worked. Oh, I'm going to leave 3 units in air superiority. Now, we've got the Cubans, but I've only put in some special forces. There's not really much background to sort of what happened here, other than the 4th Division were responsible for taking it back. I don't really know how the Cubans were involved, but I was watching something about their involvement in Congo, and I can't remember the exact date for that, but I got the feeling that they stopped using sort of their direct troops and they were more sort of in an advisory or providing sort of things like artillery and special forces. Not even special forces, they were just sort of commanders, but I put in some special forces there to sort of represent what the Cubans might have had. They might have had more, it might have been before the Congo period, but I suspect it's after. So obviously we've got this sort of front line here. Now, one thing to say, and there's Kenya, so Somalia is way back this way. One thing to say, I don't know that that's how the front line was. I mean, it said they got to Flito and they never went any further. However, if you sort of look at the scale of things, etc., I would imagine that they would take the surroundings at least. And when they said they didn't get any further, to the next major place. No, I have no idea why I'm tired. I do. I was being ironic and sarcastic, but it's sort of not a lot of point to even that. The point is that the front line could have been a little further back, but I've sort of given them this as a sort of middle ground, just to give it a bit more play as well. I also don't really know where they came from. They might have come from the north. That the line of could have come more like that, as opposed to sort of like that. But I've done it like this. We don't know, so it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference. This is a bit of an odd one in the sense it's further into the war, 78, which is sort of pretty much the end of the war. What did I say the end of the war was? March 15th. So this is like 3 days before the end of the war. So anyway, in the first instance, I'm not really sure what to do. We've got some distinct sectors, really. I mean, for example, we could sort of exploit from down here. However, there isn't really much in this gap, so pushing through there probably won't achieve much. But I probably will push these guys to deal with that, these guys to deal with that. Everyone else will go down this road, and then what we've got here, to be quite honest, can just hold. We don't even need to push that way, I don't think, because there's a lot down there. Okay, so what we've got in this stack, it's all infantry, so we're not going to get far anyway. Well, that's it, one move. Infantry. Uh-huh. Hmm. Off the road a bit. Quite a lot of armour there. Might be worth pushing them back. Took all his movement, I won't be doing that again. So that's the fun thing about these sorts of scenarios. There's so many units, you spend half a year just moving them. Right, well, let's see what we can get artillery wise. Not much, but something's better than nothing. Okay, but what I will do before I go in, see if we can get an airstrike on them. No air defense around. Okay, so we're going for the attack now. And before I do that, what do we think the odds will be? They'll be worth 2.7, 1.3, 1.5, 1.2, so he's worth 4, 8, 12, 16. That might be a 1-to-1 because they've got armor in there. I'm not going to do it. I'll do an attrition. 1-to-1, yep. That's what I thought. I've got an attack over here though. I'm not going to bother calculating it, so I think it should be good. 3-to-1 DR. And that's that. So, what we've got now is the interesting air superiority option. There's three things that we can do. We can not use our fighters and not risk losing them. We can try for air superiority, although it's 2-to-3, or we can try air attacks, and these will just come in as air defense with everything else. So I don't know what I want to do. Now, the first thing to possibly consider is the fact that we sort of held out there, really, but probably not for long. It's a village, so we've got some defence in there. If we remain stationary, we'll eventually be able to dig in, but that's not going to last forever. We could possibly move him up. I think the thing that I'm trying to sort of consider is it best to sort of fall back? Because at the moment our front line is clearly like that. So using another colour, we could fall back at least one. Get along 3, possibly there. Possibly move to there. If you had to move 1 in. fall back to that line. Same blue as the river, isn't it? Looks like the river is. Cheat. Put that in. Or we could hold this line. Now the thing is, I think the other thing to bear in mind is that we do have other things. Well, I was thinking more along the lines of this artillery, but that's going to take forever to get anywhere. That shouldn't be an objective, that's in Kenya. So we could try pushing our armour through these hills. But that might give us a little bit of an edge against whatever they've got there. I mean, we could coordinate an armoured thrust this way. Because at the moment there's just artillery, armour and a couple of units. We've got all of this stuff that would fall into that. And then everything else here can sort of push this way, this way, this way, etc., etc. Obviously I don't need to draw all these arrows, but could use this as the front line, because that's sort of where it's going to go, threatening their flank here with whatever we've got there, because there's not a lot of point. It's got to somehow contend with that. We either sit there along this line or push it all forward to attack that. And down here, that's a long distance, but there's not a lot there to challenge this. We just don't have enough artillery. I mean, that's going to be a solid punch when it comes. They really don't want to go through those mountains. I'll leave all that there. One of the interesting things about this is the effects of the road. It does speed things up, and I'm going to go for a more. I'm going to sort of change the movement rate so that roads are sort of more favoured. I don't really think we've got much artillery. See, I don't want to use my air power. I don't want to risk losing it in the ground. I certainly don't want to risk losing it there, because if I lose it there, they'll have 5 aircraft. By leaving it off, take up 3. We can handle two attacks a turn, but not 5. Okay. So hmm. Hmm. What's that? So we really want to start pushing all of this. Move that stack out of the way. $12. It's pretty tough. We get 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 28. 2, possibly 3 to 1. That would be maybe the first one to do. Get some artillery onto it. 1 piece of artillery. Okay. 2.1, 0.7, 0.9. Hoping for 3 to 1. A 4 to 1's a possibility, but I doubt it. Eliminated them both. Well, that's good. Thing is, I'm not sure I really want to do this attack. I mean, these stacks are still pretty tough. 12. 1 to 1, that's 2 to 1. I suppose that's... If it's all mechanized. Then we'll go for a 2 to 1. Push them back, which is nice. And can push more in there. At least we get the surround, so let's at least go for it this time. I think we hammered them last time. Yeah. Two to 1 on a DR. So we've had a whole bunch of relatively successful turns. interesting really, because this sort of posturing of taking that attitude has stopped this flanking, and almost, this isn't really that strong a position now. When we're on the offensive, considering, we could just slip around there, it seemed quite different. But once these start to get up there, we need this. We probably need some of these over there as well. The artillery is what will do it, because as it comes in quite slowly, it will get pounded with the artillery like that. So they probably want to stay away. They might even move away. But here, we've got this huge block of units, this sort of bottleneck area. Be interesting to see how that pans out. And down here, they're not strong enough to really attack. We've got this motorised unit coming up, this artillery, this armour, I think it's trying to get there. This armour's trying to get through that way. I'm not going to do any more because I don't want to spend too long on the video, but this is quite exciting. I get the feeling they're going to win. I mean, they did historically, but I think, well, is it possible for them to make it difficult? And I think one thing that might have been maybe a better option would have been to fall back quicker, but somehow to just get this artillery. There's two artillery there, one there, and I don't know where I think there's some in there. I mean, even just falling back something like that might have been quite feasible, sending these ones right back early on, racing back with these and these and these, and then just creating a really thick line across there, anchored into these hills, forcing them, if they want to attack, to come across this stream, and consolidating these high defensive numbers, because if you look at them, they're actually quite, significant when they're only attacking on threes. So two of these stacked up needs quite a few of these just to even get to 1-to-1. These attacks here, I mean, there was a 3-to-1 and a 2-to-1. I don't think there was a 4-to-1. I think there was 3-to-1. But either way, they were the 3-to-1s, 2-to-1s could have failed. I mean, all those attacks passed, which is good, but it could have gone the other way. Whereas that first one failed, and once they start failing, the edge that they've got in numbers gets a little whittled down. I think really it's just a case of really trying to maximise the potential from the artillery that they've got. They've got two down there for some reason, one there, so that's 4 lots of artillery. And if they could centre that somewhere, for example, even getting these ones just somewhere within 4 of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, they could get it there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Even there. The thing is, it's going through all this scrub. It's so slow. Is interesting. Okay, well, and I mean the air power I think is again interesting. I mean, it's another one of these things where you sort of think, well, that's that, but it is a choice, and it does. I'm sort of thinking, well, I mean, from what I've read of accounts of the war, more related to the Iran-Iraq war, was that they were quite often loath to fly because they didn't want to lose their aircraft. Which is sort of interesting. I was just thinking of the Uganda-Tanzania war, when they shot down absolutely just virtually everything the Ugandans had. But in this war, the Ethiopians had air superiority for most of it, because I think the Soviets started to help them militarily, and the Cubans were as well. Yeah, so interesting. Be really interesting to sort of see whether they could actually hold out. I mean, because if they could hold out on the first few battles, those sort of things take effect. Because instead of losing a battle, you get an attrition, which you can recover because you're on the defensive. You can always recover attritions a lot faster, a lot more efficiently when you're defending. And especially if you can get some artillery to sort of, pin down the ones that start to take fatigues. And just concentrating on those. I mean, once you can get them over 5, you can even rout them. But they've got a lot of artillery. I mean, the thing is, they did win, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they could defend. I mean, they're not going to counterattack, but somehow they could defend, and it would only really come into a sort of, that sort of situation if, they were attacked enough times and they just, all the attacks failed. The Ethiopian attacks kept failing. That's and that's the sort of the gamble that they're after. So sort of optimizing defense every time, and then just hoping that their attacks fail. But if you can do that for, even in just 5 turns, you could probably turn the tide. I don't know. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.